and gentlemen, I didn't even know this guy, but apparently someone who looks like Andrew Yang just burst in on this phone call. Andrew Yang, everybody, just want to say this is exactly how we rehearsed it. So just want to say salute, and we may do this again. We may not. We may just keep it in. I think.
Oh, we should definitely keep it in. Yeah. This is. I just like how Andrew Yang could break into any Skype call he wants.
Yes, technology. I'm like the Kool-Aid man of Skype call. I'll just bust out in and be like, "Oh yeah."
Is this how you burst in on Rogan's podcast? You just get like I don't know. Rogan had on Bernie Sanders, and you just walked in. Hey guys, can we talk?
Like, how'd you get in here? Well, I can do what I want.
So, I would love to have somehow photobombed that particular
okay,
podcast.
For those of you just listening right now, Andrew Yang just appeared on our FaceTime, on our call right now. We have as our special guest Andrew Yang on the darkest timeline. So words can't express
Andrew,
right now.
thank you for hurting your career by coming on our second episode.
And I like that we're such jabronis. We don't know how to bring up Andrew Yang ourselves. And Andrew Hobson, our producer, is like, hey, me and Joel are rambling so long. And Andrew said, remember to bring up Andrew Yang. And then Andrew Yang just fucking
he appeared.
Oh, my God.
I like that. I like a guest that just break. I love that. It's perfect. So, Andrew Yang, you are, thank God that you're here on this planet. And you're an American here in our country at this crazy time. I think a lot of people tuning in thinking it's going to be a community watchback podcast. But now we have international politicians, people who ran for president, and Andrew Yang, who might single-handedly save our economy. Is that right? Possibly? Can you? Please?
I would love to be a part of the solution. Certainly, this pandemic has accelerated many of the trends that I've been concerned about for years. And it's highlighting the need to put money directly into people's hands. Right now, it's a necessity for families to stay afloat, but it's going to continue to be a necessity because the dark truth is that our economy is not going to snap back to what it was after this virus clears. That's just not the way organizations work. It's not the way consumer confidence works. There are many, many people right now that are unfortunately battening down the hatches and preparing for a really rough period. And I think that's unfortunately the right approach.
Yeah.
Andrew,
you can see. Go ahead, Ken.
Andrew and I are friends, and I endorsed him during his historic presidential run. And it was an honor to endorse you because you are the first Asian American Democratic candidate in presidential history to run for president. And it was just it was such an honor. And Andrew,
that's not why, Ken.
Hold on. Time out. Are you blaming me? Are you blaming me like I somehow ended your campaign because once I said it, then you're like, okay, campaign suspended?
I'm just, it wasn't because of the Asian thing. It was because of a fundamental connection to my platform. Because I know, Ken, you would never just glom onto a campaign because of the Asian thing.
No, actually.
I don't think I think you're underestimating Ken. I don't think he agrees with you about anything politically.
How dare you? Just because I wanted to get Donald Glover's phone number, how dare you? So I forgot his number when we saw him in November. But no, my big thing. It was funny. Andrew and I talked over the Christmas holidays, and it was fun. Like I did not want to endorse anyone without having just a consensus with my family, with my wife. And so you and I and my wife Tran, we got on a phone call, and Tran did a very thorough job, just kind of talking policy, talking, exactly what UBI, Universal Basic Income, is all about. Talked about healthcare. We talked about so many issues for an hour, and I was thinking the whole time, both my wife and I we were just so stunned at how much time you took to talk to us and how patient you are with us, because if anything, we asked you a lot of challenging questions, and we were really we were really just struck by how sincere you are, and how authentic you are, and just it's really just an honor, man. It really is, dude. And we've talked so many times since. It's just cool that, you know, it's just cool I can call you my friend now, man. It's just great.
Well, thanks, Ken. I mean, I appreciate you and Tran digging in. And Joel, to your point, I mean, we have to start trying to prepare to rebuild our country for when this virus does clear, because it's going to need a lot of help. You know, things are not going to knit themselves back together. We're going to be dealing with the scars of this for quite some time. And the question is just how deep those scars run, because you can see it in some of the trends that are coming out of China and the countries that experienced the virus early on. But you see elevated divorce rates. You saw elevated levels of child abuse and domestic violence. I mean, we're putting a very benign face on people being at home. But the fact is, if you're trapped at home for weeks or even months on end, some harm develops, and you know, it's compounding over time. Our economy in particular, I've run organizations, and the fact is, when there's a recession, a lot of organizations make decisions that they've been putting off for a while. They're not going to hire back all of these people. I mean, if you look at it, I think Macy's just said they were furloughing the majority of their 125,000 employees. There were a lot of those employees that were on the brink anyway. And then when they make the decision to furlough 125,000, they're not going to bring back 125,000 after the store is reopened, because they're going to expect a diminished level of business. So these changes are going to be with us for a long time. I wish I had better news to report, but we have to start getting value into people's hands and rethink how our economy works very, very quickly.
I mean, you were the first one to, you know, bring up universal basic income, you know, last year. And so it was very interesting to me when the White House administration brought that up as a possibility. Mitt Romney brought that up as a possibility. And then when that was announced publicly, I texted you, and I just texted you 3 words: "You were right." And it was, I think what I love about you is that you are a visionary, and you are in many ways ahead of your time, but talking to you on a deeper level, you're also a realist, and it's very hard, especially in the Democratic Party, to kind of merge those elements of, you know, maybe having some more moderate fundamentals with progressive fundamentals. It's like almost an impossible marriage, but somehow you pulled it off. And I really feel that that's why you connected with so many people, and that's why you transcended party lines. It was astonishing to see how many people across the board just gravitated towards you. And I think also you weren't negative at all. You were nothing but positive, you know. And I felt like you were. I think that's the forward thinking that a lot of people, myself included, you know, it's hard not to be negative. And how was it? How was it on the campaign trail, just keeping up with your humanity forward philosophy? I mean, I feel like you're the only candidate in either party to do that. I still don't know how you kept that up.
You know, Ken, what's funny is on the trail, when you interact with everyday Americans in Iowa, New Hampshire, or Ohio, wherever it is, it's actually pretty easy. It's like most people that come out to see you are just interested in improving their lives and trying to make things better for their family. It actually got tougher when you dealt with the dynamics of the race, where I have to be honest, like there were folks who told me, it's like, hey, you know, like throw some rocks at people at like various times, because they thought that would gin up attention, because the press is more likely to cover conflict. It's one reason why you saw on the debate stage some of the lower polling candidates. It always seemed like they tried to engage in some kind of death grip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought there was some logic to that, but I was like, you know, if I did that, one, it's not my natural tendency, and two, people are going to see right through it. It's going to seem just like another obvious political move, and I in particular would be terrible at it. So like it was easier on the trail, Ken, than it was in terms of debates in other parts of the race.
Yeah, I find on my own lower level, I feel the same way. It's easier for me to be positive, when I'm meeting my fans and meeting my friends, and then there's certain people along there's certain people along the trail, the podcast trail, and you're looking at them right now that it's kind of hard not to be negative with when you're with such a deep soul that is so devoid of humanity.
When your career gets going, people are gonna really love.
I hate everything you stand.
No,
to
I mean, you got
embarrass
famous
me
by showing
in front
your
of
penis
Andrew Yang.
jumping out of a car, and I think that's
a big deal to me. And stop overlapping me.
Not overlapping you
Andrew
at all.
Yang.
You sound like a desperate candidate, Ken, who is
talking
attacking
like this in front.
I can't believe the great Andrew Yang has to deal with. Do you think if we could get the economy started by hiring an interior designer for Ken? It looks like he broke into a hotel in 1989. All right. No, but Andrew, I wanted to ask you, so what is your day like? Do your days like these days? You obviously wear a sport coat around the house, which is very cool.
Again, just waist up. I've got gym shorts on.
He's got Billabong shorts right underneath.
But to do what you're doing, which is trying to fix, work out this economy for in this crazy time. So what does your day look like?
It is frustrating, and I feel for folks like Joe Biden, who's like the presumptive nominee, and he's trapped in his house just like the rest of us. And you and Ken, Joel, are kind of professional entertainers, and so if you just stick a camera on you, you can like make it work. That's not the case. That's not the case for most political figures, honestly. Like, you can't just like stick a camera up and be like, go. And so it's harder for public officials who are trying to do positive things. For me personally, right now, I'm maybe busier than ever. And a lot of the work that I'm doing can be done from afar or virtually. So the thing I'm proudest of right now is that we've raised $1.25 million and given away about 1.1 million of it to needy families around the country through my organization, Humanity Forward. So if you're listening to this and you need a micro grant of $250 to $500, you can go to movehumanityforward.com, and no promises because demand is far outstripping our ability to meet it, but we'll do our best. And if you're able to donate, you can do the same, and every dollar will go to someone who's in need right now. So that's keeping me busy. I'm launching a podcast. It sounds very original, but I have to say it was in the works. I've got.
Is it a rewatch of Family Ties?
I did like.
Hey, I'd watch that. I'd listen to that. Andrew Yang. He does a Mallory rewatch. That's what I want.
I would love, Andrew, you'd be like, well, this is where Mallory got her boyfriend, Nick.
Yeah, exactly. And then Nick goes,
I love this.
Hey, Mr. Keaton, hey! I would love that.
I was a big Justine Bateman fan. You remember that movie she was in? I think it was called Satisfaction.
Yes, I do remember that.
If you haven't seen it, it's a classic of the era. So
you know what? We're talking about the important issues, man. The economy, Justine Bateman, Satisfaction.
These are important issues that people.
All the bullet points. I really do.
Yeah. I can't believe you're doing a podcast about this. Thanks for coming on, Andrew Yang. Bye. No.
But I'm working on a project to try and activate people's consumer data rights. So that's very exciting because right now people don't know what's going on with our data, and it's getting sold and resold over and over again. And there may be a way to actually get money into people's hands. I'm all about putting money into people's hands, as you know. So this may be a way to do that. I'm really excited about. I'm obviously doing some work for CNN from home. And I'm working on something right now that I'm going to try and rope you both into, but it's called the All American campaign. It's around trying to call out the fact that we're all American. And right now there are many Asians who are bearing the brunt of coronavirus-based racism and hostility because, people blame China for the rise of the virus. And obviously there's some truth to the fact the Chinese government screwed us all. But that has very little to do with Chinese Americans or Korean Americans or other people that are living their lives here. So we're working on a campaign to try and call out the fact that we're all American and that we all need to stay together and pull each other up. And certainly many of my friends in the Asian American community are donating time, resources, money, like trying to buy masks for communities in need. And so I'm working on that. I'm busier than ever. And it's a very strange feeling because, when you're trapped at home, like the thought is like, well, maybe I'll just kick it with my family for a little while. But like, I certainly feel a real responsibility to try and help the country through this time because it's such a painful time.
I mean, the gaslighting of,
it's crazy.
I'll just say it. The gaslighting and calling it Chinese virus just has sickened me from the get-go, where I literally have to bite my tongue. It is just so transparent to me. It is racist, it's sickening, and it affects all of us. You do not do that. And you and I, Andrew, we've talked about it, off the record, and I'm just so happy that you're doing something about it and galvanizing the Asian American community to fight this, because we're all affected. We're all affected, yep. And not just Asian American. This is affecting us as a country. This is not what we stand for right now. This is a global problem. This is a global pandemic. And as a physician, when you're seeing all of these cases in this country right now, and we are rising up that steep slope of that curve that we're trying to flatten through social distancing, as we're talking right now, estimates are growing of the death rate, and that affects all of us. And I know we all know somebody that has been affected with coronavirus, and it is to a point right now where we just got to stop gaslighting people. It's stupid.
It's not helping.
It's racist, and it's insulting to our intelligence as a nation. And I am,
Ken, did I tell you? I went into an urgent care 2 weeks ago, right before it got bad. I don't know if you can see. I cut my head open while I was headbutting Ken, and
that's right. That's right.
But I went to this urgent care and I said, "How many people?" This is right at the beginning, and I said, "How many people are calling in?" They're like, "We can't put the phone down." And then I said, "How many people are blaming Corona beer?" And as a joke, they said, "You wouldn't believe how many people are saying they're not drinking." And then voluntarily, they said numerous people have said, "Oh, and we're not going to Chinese restaurants." And I just thought, you got how ignorant, how
ridiculous.
It's just incredible that, and yes, and obviously the White House needs to be the first to lead the in education. And so it's a mess.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about Andrew. Like you put your country over your party, and you even publicly just applauded anyone who like gravitated towards your principles and ideals, including the Trump administration, including Mitt Romney. Like what I like about you is that you gave credit where credit is due. You weren't making it a political issue. You're not even in the race anymore, and then you're just applauding people for, and willing to help out in any way you can. And that's what everyone in this country needs to do, is follow your lead and just cross party lines and just, I don't know, and just move forward together. And that, you inspire me, on that level.
Yeah. The only silver lining that could come out of this time is that if we do things differently on the way out, like if we come together, if we have different kinds of solutions, like putting money directly into people's hands, which, as you guys know, I've been passionate about as like the best way to help people solve their problems and improve our lives. That's my hope for this, is that this is a terrible time. Like it's almost impossible to even try and find a silver lining in it. It's so destructive and devastating on so many levels. But the hope I have is that if we come out of this willing to do things differently, willing to come together across party lines, then maybe we can do things that actually help move the country forward on the way out of this crisis.
Yeah.
I mean,
and yeah.
No. Go ahead, please.
No. Why do you hate math so much?
No. He likes it. That's what he. That's why it's on the thing. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was got to get screwed.
But does it look backwards? Because of my, what's funny is it really was like a supporter who came up with the acronym "Make America Think Harder." A lot of the campaign was very organic and grassroots that way. But math started out as sort of humorous aside in the campaign, but it actually embodied the fact that math is nonpartisan. Like the facts don't lie, numbers don't lie. You can't wish them away, and you can't wish this virus away. This country, unfortunately, has gotten trapped in this two-party duopoly where you have like these two alternate versions of reality that are competing. And then there's this objective version of reality that like actually just out the window. And it doesn't serve any of us well if you have these two sides that are essentially will try and negate whatever the other side is doing.
I have to ask you on a lighter note, why the no tie? Like on every debate state, what was your thinking behind it? Not wearing a tie to anything.
I will happily lighten up, Ken. I don't want to, be adding to what people are feeling. No, it was interesting. The first debate came up on the schedule. I hadn't been wearing a tie on the campaign trail. And so I said to the team, it's like, hey, am I wearing a tie to this thing? And so the first thing we did is we looked at the rule book. And the funny thing about the debate rule book is there's absolutely no dress code. So in theory, I could have worn an ape costume or like whatever the heck, like there was no actual rule around it.
Like a Who Farted t-shirt. Yeah.
So we had one.
That would have been outstanding if you had decided to dress up as an ape wearing a Who Farted t-shirt.
That's a humble pitch, Andrew. Next time. Next 2024.
Yes, we had a number of jokes where I could go with that t-shirt and blazer look, and the t-shirts could be like an advertisement for something. And then every commercial break, I would change t-shirt. It'd be a different color and a different message.
Oh.
So we had all sorts of thoughts around it. But the team looked at it and said, well, look, if you haven't been wearing a tie this whole time on the trail, do you really want to put one on for the debate? And I was like, well, they'll just show up without a tie, and it'll stamp me as a non-politician. I genuinely don't like ties because I had to wear one a lot as a teenager. I went to this boarding school that had a dress code, and so I had like this long time aversion to them because as a teenager I was stuck wearing them a lot. It was like a Dead Poet Society type school.
Ken also hates wearing ties because he still doesn't know how to tie them, and
no, it's not. Whoa! It's not about. It's more. It's more of a jowl issue than like an inability to tie. But go on, Andrew.
No,
please.
I would say that's also an issue. Go ahead. Sorry, Andrew.
Please. Sorry, Andrew. Enough about my chins.
I have to say, community alums. I mean, you all have done such cool stuff. I feel like
most of us, right, Joe?
Like the breeding ground for people who've had outstanding careers. I mean, you two and Donald and everyone else. It must be fun. Like, do you guys ever have de facto reunions?
We had one.
Go ahead,
that we referenced on the last podcast back in November. We had a reunion in LA, and Joel organized a dinner afterwards and brought everyone to his favorite steakhouse. And Dan Harmon, the creator, the whole cast and community was there. And Joel brought Donald Glover to the dinner, and a lot of us hadn't seen him in a while, and it was the best night ever. And I wouldn't know because I blacked out. But anyway, that's not beside the point. Andrew Yang is beside the point. So, but we had such a great time, and we're to say that we're on a family.
We're all on a text together.
Yeah.
Where right up to the very moment when we started taping this podcast, we were texting because now Community is now on Netflix, and so all this press just came out, and we were all making fun of it, and it's great that we all still like each other, and we look back on that time as a magical time that had a lot of hours.
Well, the viewership is about to multiply because literally everyone's stuck at home and Community is now on Netflix. Oh my gosh. Literally, I think 5 to 10 times more people are going to watch it over this. I have to say it was successful in its time. But
everyone always said the ratings were terrible. And then I would always look at the ratings. I'd be like, they're pretty good. And we're up against Big Bang Theory. So what's going on? And I don't have a chip on my shoulder about that at all.
Yeah, Joel, stop complaining to Andrew Yang about the 2011 ratings, all right? Just stop it. Andrew Yang doesn't want to hear it.
He is a man. Go ahead, Andrew.
Let's talk more about Justine Bateman, Joel.
Now think about this. Literally 100% of Americans are at home. I mean, not 100. You'd probably say 95. They're probably 5% that are, or actually more than that if you include. Anyway, so let's call it 90% of Americans are at home. And then of them, you figure half of them have Netflix or have access to someone else's Netflix password. So you're looking at, you're looking at tens of millions of Americans watching you all in your prime. At your comedic heights, or not your heights, because you're probably funny.
Yeah, no, that was Ken's fine. I think that was the best that Ken could do easily. I think we would all agree on that.
I unfortunately agree too. But moving on.
Donald, his career just tanked afterwards.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
You guys were definitely carrying Donald around. That's clear.
Boom. We're gonna grab that. We're gonna grab that soundbite, and that's all we're gonna record. That's all we're gonna display. We carried Donald. That came from Andrew Yang. So that's amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of royalties from those Netflix shows. Oh wait, that's right. We won't see anything. These are the complaints that I have. Wait, Andrew, I got a question for you. I'm turning it serious again. I read a thing going questioning how food supplies are going to what's going to happen with food supplies in the next couple months, and there was a lot of questions like are they going to stop, and I wasn't sure if it was just a way to scare everyone or we should truly be worried about the food supply chain.
From what I've seen, production is still continuing. Everyone in that sector is considered essential. And then the processing is continuing. The transportation to grocers is continuing. I haven't seen anything that leads me to think that that any of that is being impacted because everyone in that industry is considered essential. Now you are seeing a couple of strikes at Whole Foods and things on the front end, but that's in the scheme of what we're talking about, relatively marginal. I would be concerned if food producer companies and packers and truckers and if I saw strikes in those sectors, that would be a huge danger sign. But I haven't seen anything like that. I certainly sympathize for the Whole Foods workers because literally all of their friends and neighbors are being told to stay at home for their health, and then they are continuing to go to work, and they're in very public facing environments where they could plausibly say, it's I interacted with dozens of people today. Some of them were definitely within breathing range. I'm not getting exactly paid hazard duty pay, and so the fact that they're striking or protesting makes perfect sense to me. But I haven't seen anything that suggests our food supply is endangered in that way.
What do you think of the run on toilet paper?
I tweeted something that said, in theory, we'd be using the same amount of toilet paper as we ever did. It's not all of a sudden, you need twice the volume. It's unfortunate. Certainly when I saw an empty toilet paper shelf, it got me thinking that if I did see toilet paper, I'd buy an awful lot.
Right.
I think some of it really is just crowd behavior, where as soon as you think something is going to be scarce, and it wasn't just toilet paper. It's when I was going around the grocery store, I think eggs were scarce. one trip I went, and then I was like, I gotta find some eggs. Like as soon as you, and then the next time I went, then there were plenty of eggs. So there's probably just some randomness to when each grocery store gets supply. But I think toilet paper kind of just ended up feeding on itself as a thing, because we all started seeing that there were shortages. And then if you did see some, then you bought it, a lot of it, and probably made the shortage worse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ken uses a lot of toilet paper. Go ahead. You can see his entire bedroom is made out of it. So go ahead.
Welcome to my Cottonelle bed. But it's I have an endorsement with him. Whatever, Joel. It's
zero. Go ahead. North.
What really, whenever I think about you is, knowledge is power, and facts matter, science matters, and I think right now is proof positive that we can't deny the science, and it's all up to us to keep updated. For me, and my wife's a physician as well, it's so important that, and I preach this all the time on the podcast and on social media. I think the best source for me is cdc.gov. Their COVID-19 sites are updated continually, and it's evolved, and it's always an evolution. And I think really the best way to get behind all this is knowledge. And I think that's what you have been preaching all along, is knowledge is power, and we got to stay informed, and we got to stay updated, and stop living in denial. Stop being, part of that Kubler-Ross death stage of just, denial right up front. And whereas some people in power are and were, and now that's evolving. And I think that's really, we have to get together and accept this reality, and then get the brightest minds to get new FDA has approved emergency use of hydroxychloroquine, and I get that. And there's some promising studies, like Cedars-Sinai has remdesivir, which is this amazing antiviral that's shown promise for SARS and MERS, and they're doing that at Cedars-Sinai right now. It's just really the best way to fix the economy is the medicine, is the science, to get randomized controlled trials that will lead to FDA-approved drugs, and also, getting fast tracking a vaccine. And the promising thing is that what I've read is that the virus is not mutating, and that's good from a vaccine perspective. You can make many scientists have already sequenced the genome for the coronavirus, for COVID-19, and you can replicate that synthetically to build antibodies against. And so I think there's a lot of promising therapies out there, but we can't have disinformation. We can't have people just talking on the air, negating what someone else just said publicly. It's just ridiculous. And if that's confusing me as a former physician, I can only think of how that's confusing the whole public. And I really think we have to get on the same page, accept the science, and move forward.
Yeah, the best way to fix the economy is to get the virus under control. There really is no other way. Because if you have the virus continue to recur in waves, and you have to have multiple shutdowns and the rest of it, it's going to make it impossible to have consumers feel confident about making purchases, about businesses making investments. The virus is the answer. It's the cause of the problem, and it's the cure. In terms of how we're going to get our economy actually moving in the right direction again. Anyone who thinks we're going to reopen things while we're dealing with the virus, to me, is wrongheaded.
Yeah, but there will. There's going to be a vaccine. Obviously, there is the end game here is that there will be one.
The question is when, but yeah, there will be a vaccine. It will be effective in the vast majority of cases. Really, the question is how long it takes us to get there, what happens between now and then. Whether the distribution, whether its effectiveness is where it needs to be. So there are some risks with you kind of take a vaccine that maybe hasn't been vetted as thoroughly or isn't as effective, and then we try and distribute it maybe sooner than it's is optimal. I mean, the longest time frames I've seen are in like and this is actually not even long. This is actually pretty fast. And Ken might have better information than me on this. It's like an 18-month time frame is like is what people.
That's what they say is an 18-month time frame at the earliest, and it's I was explaining to a friend of mine who is a director in terms of in movies, like how this works. It really is just kind of, you have to, like in building a script, you have to write a rough draft, you have to write an outline, you have to write a story document. There's so many levels to getting, let's say, a polished script, ready to shoot, and there's at least 20 thorough vettings that are going on internally. And it's the same way, and then some, in medicine, because you have to make sure, A, that it's safe, because as a physician, do no harm, whether it's a medication, whether it's a vaccine. And then you have to test its efficacy to see if it works and how well does it work. And then you have to combine all those things and to see how it can be mass distributed. And I think that's what makes hydroxychloroquine so attractive. It's so funny. Even I would have debates with my wife about it. My wife still practices, and I read that French study that all the hydroxychloroquine rage was about, and I was like, that makes sense. If it's like you have a study of like maybe, I don't know, a half dozen people that were on hydroxychloroquine, half that were not, and then the hydroxychloroquine study, they showed that they all had improvement. What Sanjay Gupta on CNN accurately pointed out, 6 people dropped out of that study. 1 person died. Some of those people couldn't even handle the medication. So if you look at it's too small a sample size to say that's effective. Does it show potential? As Deborah Burke said, yes, it shows potential. It shows promise, but we need a larger control trial, and those studies are undergoing right now. And not to mention that they're with the vaccine. There's a trial in Seattle that I love that is that I saw on MSNBC someone being interviewed, and to me that vaccine trial takes weeks to figure if that even works. So if that takes weeks on a small half dozen people enrolled in a vaccine trial locally, think about it on a national scale. It could take years.
Well, one thing we would definitely need is a faster way to say hydroxychloroquine. We'd have to call it the Drox or something like that.
That's what we need to trademark. You, me, and Joel. We just call
the Drox. Sounds good.
Yeah. Can you smell what the Drox is cooking? Maybe have a T-shirt that does that.
I feel like
you can put that on your ape suit in 2024. Just a thought. You don't have to say yes. Fine. All right.
He said yes. I think that was a yes.
Maybe they'll see this podcast. They'll change the rules for the 2024 debates. They'll be like, we might want to put in some dress code.
Hey, the DNC is bumping on the ape suit, and then you're like, well, Ken suggested it, and they're like, yeah, we know. So let's just not do that anymore. But Andrew, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come to talk to us, and thank you for continuing to inspire us. And please follow Andrew Yang on social media, and what he's doing right now, I say is even more significant, because right now he is making a difference on all levels and on all platforms and of all races. And I just want to thank you for just sharing your time and energies with us, and much love to Evelyn and your beautiful family. And just thank you. Hopefully we can reconvene under better circumstances and in person, and then we can talk together without Joel.
No. I think he was excited to come on the podcast because of me, because he loved the Great Indoors, even though in one season. But Andrew, what's the name when does the podcast start?
The podcast will be launching in the first week of May, we think. It's called Yang Speaks, and we're really excited about it. Joel would love to have you on. I know Ken's going to be on sometime early on. Van Jones, Crystal Ball, Albert Wenger, who's like a futurist who's putting money up for a universal basic income trial. So that there are a lot of really exciting things that we can do. I ran for president because I had a vision of both the problems and solutions. And one thing I'll say is that we can actually start working on some of these solutions independent of government. I mean, certainly, I think government has to play a huge role in solving some of the biggest problems of our time. That's why I ran. But I'm an action-oriented person. I'm certainly not just going to wait around. And there are things that we can do to improve our own lives and start solving these problems right now. Really appreciate you both. And
what's the charity again, Andrew?
The charity is Humanity Forward. And every dollar that gets donated to our coronavirus relief fund gets given to an American family in need. Right. Again, we're up to 1.25 million. And if anyone wants to donate, please do go to movehumanityforward.com. Hopefully the name speaks for itself, but we have to just keep moving our people in the right direction, even in these dark times. Or especially in these dark times. So thank you for this opportunity. And Joel, fan of yours, look forward to hopefully having a conversation with you in the days ahead, either in person or if it's in this context remotely. I appreciate the heck out of you guys. Be safe out.
I'd love to come on the show and contribute nothing because you guys are way smarter.
Love you, Andrew. Run for mayor. Run for mayor. Run for mayor of the city.
Andrew,
sorry, I don't know how
Andrew
that
Yang,
came out.
everybody.
Yeah.
Sir Andrew Yang. I just knighted him.
Thank you, Andrew. Love you.